Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in to the Red, White, and Ruthless show on the Nickel City Mafia YouTube channel, where our family business is football. We got Trek Reviewer, the first one in the building, saying, "Let's go." Yeah, we got a polarizing topic. Obviously, everyone's already talked about it a million times, but we do a show once a week. So, talking about it now. Oh, my camera's all messed up. Give me 1 second. There we go. Back to normal. Yeah, and this will be if we can make this interactive because it's really just talking about the Dick situation and wide receiver situation. So the chat, we're gonna need you tonight. We're gonna need you to tell us your opinions and bring up any talking points you want, really. So I'll dive into my personal opinion and my thoughts, but your engagement is definitely welcome. So just diving right in, I think a lot of us can confidently say we more than likely saw this coming. If not this year, the next year we were going to get off of Diggs, even though he had signed a 4-year extension last year. And as I always say, I'm a Bills fan. Sure, I love players, but at the end of the day, if the players go, I'm not going to stop being a Bills fan. So I'm not mad at the Diggs trade, but the one thing I was pretty upset about was whenever people talk about it, they mention, "Oh, we got a second round pick for a declining player, and that's going to be 31 years old." But they forget to mention that we gave away a fifth and a sixth round pick. One of them's conditional too, so it could even be more depending on his production. Um, gave up more for them to take him. So at the end of the day, the value wasn't really a second round pick because you had to give up more assets. So a fifth and a sixth may make the second like a fourth. So, that's one thing that bothers me is that we had to give away stuff. Because at the end of the day, if you look at his production, he had his worst season in Buffalo was better than his best season in Minnesota. And I know he's 31 years old, but we shouldn't have had to give any capital whatsoever to get him off this team, especially the second part I was most angry about was trading him to another AFC team. And to me, that should be GM 101. Don't trade into your conference, especially teams that you're competing with to make the playoffs and to win the AFC. So last year he did it with trading up 2 picks for Dalton Kincaid, traded with Jacksonville. Jacksonville got our pick at 27, I think it was. They drafted a franchise right tackle. And, it's going to help their team. Sure, we got Dalton Kincaid, but you also helped out another AFC team. And now the next year, you help that same division out. You give him Stefon Diggs and 2 picks. Sure, he's a rental for 1 year. But at the end of the day, uh, I just don't think we needed to give away, even though a fifth and a sixth might be nothing. But remember, Matt Milano was a fifth round pick. So those are just my gripes with that part of it. Sean, you only get one thumb from me. Oh, you mad at me lately? Big Al, thanks for coming in. We showed we didn't need Diggs for half the season. Let's move up to get Thomas. I like in Texas Hold'em. Let's go all in on him. Yeah, and that was we're gonna definitely transition into that. Um, that's what I also agree with is, but there's a caveat to that as well. We won without Diggs last year, but the name of Stefon Diggs on the team, him being on the field, that defenses have to plan around, no matter if he was a factor or not. How much are we going to miss that this coming year? If, let's say we don't get a guy like Thomas, which I hope, it'd be nice to get a guy like him, but that Diggs just being on the field impact, how much are we going to miss that? I love the move. Yeah, definitely. Why would Texans give up a second for a 1 year? Yeah, kind of. I mean, they're paying him a little bit. We're paying him part of it. And they basically just forfeited the rest of the contract. They could have took the rest of the contract, the 3 years, but they just said, "Oh, he can be a free agent next year if he wants," because they probably don't want to deal with the bullshit. They probably just, if he gets 1 year with us, he's going to give it his all and he's going to try hard, and he's not going to be a problem in the locker room because we noticed that with us his first year or two, pretty solid. Everybody liked him. I mean, I still love him. I got my my special dig shirt, from the New England game around Christmas a couple years ago. Um, I still love Diggs, but as everyone seems to get by now, it's better. It should be better in the long run. One thing I will say though, people always bring up, and it's should be true, that Brandon Bean should have had a plan. He wouldn't just get rid of Stefon Diggs without a plan. But what I was starting to think about it from my angle was, if they planned on getting rid of Stefon Diggs, why would and they know we have apparently we have 70 million in cap space next year, from what people are telling me. Why wouldn't we have maybe took a chance on Gabe Davis and said, hey, we'll give you 14 million a year and we'll extend you this year, so we at least had someone you know in the building that is a big boundary receiver. Not that he was the best, not that he wasn't inconsistent, because he was, but I'm just saying, you get rid of your one and your technical two this year. Not that Curtis Samuel can't be a two. Obviously, he's proven that, but it just seemed like it wasn't planned. It just seemed like it was kind of a last minute thing. And obviously the draft hasn't happened yet. There's still guys like Ayuk and Higgins out there, but I don't know. It just seemed like it seems odd. Something was odd here. If the Bills give up a second for 1 year, I'd be livid. Yeah, I mean it's not the best move, but for a guy like Diggs, I kind of get it. I think D'Amico Ryans isn't an idiot, so he kind of figured, like, that's two places in a row where Diggs went and things were a problem. So they don't want to take the chance and ruin the culture that they just built in that short period of time. I think we will end up surprising all the Mafia with another brilliant pick. That'd be really cool. The only thing, even if the guy seems really good, he still has to do it on the field. So that's, the GM can go as far as the GM can go. And at the end of the day, the guy just has to pan out. So we have to remember, this guy, whoever it is, I would just like Thomas, just not because of his skill set and his athletic ability, is just the fact that he's from LSU. So it's like, oh, Jefferson and Chase were from LSU, so the odds of him probably being good is high. I'll take that anytime. But we're gonna have to have a lot of high expectation for this guy, because he's taking over for Diggs. Because Samuel's not going to be the wide receiver one. Shakir's not going to be the wide receiver one. So we're going to have to bring in a guy, maybe Brian Thomas. He's going to have to put up at least 1,200 yards, 100 catches, and 6 to 10 touchdowns. And if he doesn't, it's going to be tough for our team, because we need that guy that's going to put up a lot of production. Because at the end of the day, we got to play Sauce Gardner twice. We got to play Jalen Ramsey twice. The Patriots always got a good secondary. And that's just our division. So you got a rookie having to go against now veterans like Sauce Gardner and then guys like Jalen Ramsey. So it's going to be a lot of and it's year one in an offense for this guy. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. That's why I always say, if I was a GM, if I planned on something like this, which we know Diggs' behavior the last few years, so I feel like they should have already had the plan, but have their replacement in the building. So we should have drafted, maybe if we weren't going to keep Davis, drafted his replacement early last year, have him in the offense, get the playbook, get the reps in the NFL, and then when Diggs is out the door, then you're just like, okay, there you go. We got him ready for this. It's his time to shine now. Instead of now, oh, Brian Thomas, you're on the Bills. You're wide receiver one. Here's Sauce Gardner week 1. Here's Jalen Ramsey week 3. Here's whoever and whoever. And then you got to ball out. You got a lot of big shoes to fill. So it's going to be tough. I was wrong, but was not thrilled about give the first for Diggs. Yeah, and I said this a couple days ago. We gave a first for him, 4 years ago. Obviously, he's 4 years older, but his production has never been better. And we got a second round pick next year, so he wasn't even worth a pick this year. Plus, we had to give 2 more picks to get a second round. So really, the value to me is maybe a fourth, a third at the best. Once you put that into consideration, and it's kind of frustrating. But yeah, Collins is here. That's pretty cool. Spencer Brown's value is never higher. When's he going to be traded? Yeah, guys like Brown and Groot, their value is going to be pretty high, and maybe they'll deal someone like that if they feel like they need to. Do you think Bean would be really crazy and trade up to 9? I don't know. I mean, would you guys want him to? Part of me feels that I might just want to stay put because not, for one reason is everyone talks about how great this wide receiver class is, and if you trade up to 9, you're probably going to have to give at least 2 first round picks, maybe 2 second round picks to move up to that. Because at the end of the day, the Bears don't have to give it up, so you have to make them want to. And you know, that's a lot of capital. Because remember, we moved up 2 spots for Kincaid, and we gave up a 4th round pick. So imagine moving up from 28, 21 spots. It's going to be at least 2 first round picks and another pick or 2. So I don't know if he will. But when you look at previous drafts, like even the one that's most alarming is the year Diggs was drafted. He was drafted in the 5th round, and I saw a clip. There was 18 receivers picked before him. I think there was 5 or 6 in the 1st round, and every single one of them was terrible. I think the best one out of all of them that got drafted was Nelson Aguilar, and he's not good at all. So there's a chance. I mean, obviously these prospects are better than those prospects, on the surface, but it's a gamble. I don't know if I trade up that far. Maybe I jump the Dolphins at 20, the highest I would go. But I don't know if any of those great like Odunze and what the heck is his name? Not obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. So he's not going to get past 6. And Malik Neighbors, I don't think he'll be there at 20 either. But maybe you could stay at 28, and you could get a guy. I'm not going to say I don't know if I'm fond of Xavier Worthy, or I think Leggett might still be a 2nd round pick, but who knows? We got a lot of options, and there's a lot of receivers, so it'll be interesting. I would like Diggs to have 110 receptions for 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, 16 games, but against Buffalo have 0 catches and 10 targets. Yeah, that'd be fun. We definitely because we play the Texans, so it'll be interesting. You could get a first for O tackle all day. I don't know about for Spencer Brown though. Yeah, tackles are hard to come by, so good point. I wouldn't do it. I would still trade back and get at least another 2nd and a 3rd. Yeah, maybe they'll even trade the 2nd next year to get some capital this year. I was talking to Big Al over there. I would not move up much. Yeah, trade to 9. No, Worthy can't track anything. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I want to get him at 28. I would still trade back and get at least another 2nd and 3rd. Yep. And again, we still have 10 picks. There's still so much we could do. Again, a lot of them are late round picks, but then we have next year's capital. We have money next year, and we have 2 seconds next year at least because we got this 2nd from Minnesota, which will probably be pretty high. I'm assuming Minnesota's going to be a bottom 10 team, so that'll be between 33 and 40. That 2nd round pick next year. We could even trade our 2nd round pick and keep the Vikings one. So they got a lot of work to do. This is a very important draft. I'm going to be honest, guys. When you're looking at what we got right now, obviously we have to draft still, but how do you guys confident-wise feel with stacking up other teams with Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, and Justin Shorter and Mac Hollins? Of course, Dalton Kincaid and James Cook, but we got nobody that's really just an absolute, barn burner of a player who's just gonna stack up on anybody. We got a lot of good players, but we got a lot of competition. Joe Burrow's coming back. Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Justin Herbert's gonna have a better team, and they got a top 5. They're gonna get Marvin Harrison probably if the Cardinals don't take him. So it's not gonna be easy, and we're rebuilding an offense. And then Shakir's gonna have to step up, just like last year. We thought, can Davis step up as a wide receiver too? He did not. Shakir is up and coming. He's going to have to step up in a major role. James Cook has to get better. Even Dalton Kincaid's going to have more targets and produce more. One thing I'm happy about, though, is we have 2 starting tight ends on our team. So a lot of Travis Kelce might be better than Kincaid and Dawson Knox, but our tight end room is way better because Dawson Knox is a tight end 1, and so is Kincaid. So that's solid. James Cook is solid, but any injury around there, it's going to be tough. We have a bunch of, unproven people at wide receiver. Curtis Samuel's proven a little bit, but everyone always brings up, well, he never had a good quarterback. And stay with me, this might seem like it's off track, but moving to people saying Diggs made Josh Allen, people say. So let's stick to that part of the narrative. Do you think Josh Allen's going to go from being a top 3 quarterback to like 17th because he doesn't have Diggs? Look, because like when you really look at it, if you're a good wide receiver, you're going to be good no matter who's throwing you the ball. And if you're a good quarterback, you're not going to magically turn bad because you don't have a great receiver next to you. So it's just, I'm not going to say, oh, because now Curtis Samuel has Josh Allen, he's going to have 1,300 yards, because you can be a great receiver. And in all these quarterbacks, there's 32 jobs of quarterback in the world. So these guys are the best of the best. So the 32nd best quarterback out of 32 can throw the ball to a good receiver. So I don't really think it makes much of a difference. So Curtis Samuel's a decent player, versatile, but we got a lot of questions on this team. We still got defensive holes. We still got, need a running back too. We still might need to draft a right tackle just in case Spencer Brown has another great year and wants to sign for big money, and we don't want to pay that. There's a lot of holes on our team and new coaches. So it's difficult. But again, there's a lot of things we can do. Wide receiver 1 vacant. Oh, sorry, skip Big House. Definitely need to draft 2 wide receivers. I don't think it matters where. Some people might get pissed off if we don't draft a receiver in the first round, but I think you can be confident in thinking if you don't in the first round, there's still guys like Leggett and Coleman that you can get maybe in the second, and then that still might be enough. But I mean, honestly, just the fact that Brian Thomas is from LSU, that just makes me want him, and I feel like we need to get a guy like him. And I don't think you need to trade up to top 10 or top 15 to get him. Wide receiver 1 vacant, wide receiver 2 vacant, Curtis Samuel, wide receiver 3, 4 Shakir, 5 Shorter and Hollins. Yeah, it's kind of how it is. And we'll see how it shakes out. The only thing I'm upset about, and I know it may seem like I was stupid now because I said the Curtis Samuel signing was bad. It was at the time just because I thought we were keeping Diggs, but now it works out. But then still, you draft 2 wide receivers. Shakir, maybe the 4th, and then is his growth going to be stunted a little bit? But Brown might move. We need a power back. Yeah, there's definitely needs all around, and we got 10 picks, so it's definitely going to be hard and interesting. But yeah, just going back to the Diggs thing again. I like the move. Of course, I love the guy. Happy for all that he did in Buffalo. Everyone, the media is loving it. People that don't like Buffalo are loving this. They're thinking that we're done, but they forget, like Josh Allen isn't going to turn around and all of a sudden go from a top 3 quarterback to being a bottom 10 or middle of the pack guy. So I got a feeling we're going to draft a couple wide receivers. Hopefully one of them works out. The more you try, the more you get. So if you get 3 wide receivers, one of them works out, wonderful. If you get 2 and neither of them work out, then that stinks. So definitely got to get a couple hacks at it. And then who knows, maybe you can even, because think about this. People say Diggs is a top 5 receiver, correct? And he was worth a 2nd round pick next year. Granted, some people would say because of his age. So if that's the case, why couldn't we trade the Niners for Ayuk, the 2nd round pick? You know what I'm saying? So I don't think Ayuk is better than Diggs. He might be younger than Diggs. But if Diggs is worth a 2nd round pick next year, plus we had to trade 2 picks for his production, I think you could trade a 2nd round pick next year for a guy like Ayuk. And as Big Al says, our cap will be better next year, especially with Diggs gone. Why couldn't we give Ayuk, like $1 million this year and then start putting the money on next year when we have it? But we'll see. I mean, it's a big contract off the books. We took the dead cap money. The dead cap is basically just money already paid. So Diggs was worth, his guaranteed money for the new extension was 47 million. We already paid part of it last year, and then the rest of it is the 31 million. So that's what dead cap is. It's already paid. So it's after this year, it's over with, and then that's another contract. So why not get a young? I mean, people say T Higgins, but most GMs aren't dumb enough to trade to rivals in your conference, and so I don't think we're going to get Higgins unless we make the trade real sweet, like a first and a second. Then they'll be like, oh yeah, sure, take him. But I don't think he's going to the AFC. And then, why not get Ayuk, draft 2 receivers anyway, trade your second round pick next year, draft 2 receivers this year, and then you got a pretty solid room, and then you got different kind of receivers all over the place. So that'd be interesting. But Diggs is falling off. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, all the things you hear that are coming out. And one thing I don't like, getting off track again, I saw a clip of Colin Cowherd mentioning how in a private conversation, Josh Allen said he was getting tired of Diggs's bullshit and drama. Well, first of all, if it was a private conversation, you guys don't have a right to talk about it unless he gave you permission, and I don't think he did. And especially because you let off with in a private conversation. If it's a private conversation, why was it going public, especially nationally? So with that all being said, because Diggs, and we talked about it all the time last year, like the first 5 weeks, 5 touchdowns, like 800 yards, like this guy was on historic pace, right? I thought he was going to get 2,000, like Tyreek almost did. But then all of a sudden, it just was trash. And then everyone's like, oh, he's old. Oh, yeah, but he was old in week 5. He was old in week 4. So that doesn't make sense that all of a sudden this happens. And then he took himself out of games. And, it just didn't make any sense. So maybe he just didn't give a shit anymore. And maybe when he goes to Houston, he'll have that, well, people are going to talk shit about me, say I'm a diva and I'm a bad teammate and a bad leader. Now I'm going to show that I'm not that. Looks like he didn't, but when he came to Buffalo and everyone said he was a piece of crap and all that stuff from Minnesota, he proved everybody wrong, and then all of a sudden it resurfaced. So that 1-year deal might actually be good for the Texans because they're trying to go all in. Remember, they still got Nico Collins on a rookie deal, I believe, and they still got Tank Dell on a rookie deal, and they got CJ Stroud on a rookie deal. So even if they're paying Diggs like $23 million this year, which I don't think they're paying him the full amount because we're paying him some, they don't really care. It's just a 1-year hit it and quit it type deal. No strings attached, friends with benefits type thing. But yeah, I would like to draft a wide receiver instead of picking up a veteran. Too much money, and I think they have other players to pay next year. Yeah, definitely. And knowing how Brandon Beane gets caught up in cap hell all the time, this is what I prefer. This is what I wanted to do in the first place. I'm just saying, if they feel like they need to, they could probably do that if they wanted to. But I'm definitely with you. I'd rather draft young guys, keep them on rookie deals, and let Josh make them better. Because remember, Josh made John Brown a 1,000-yard receiver for the first time in his career. He made Cole Beasley who he was at the end of his career, even though he was good in Dallas. He was great in Buffalo. And then Diggs went from being good to a bona fide all-pro wide receiver 1, very good in this league. And, of course, they all helped Josh develop as well. But the statistical facts are there that these guys went from doing this to this when they got Josh Allen as their quarterback. So why can't he make a guy like Brian Thomas even better? Why can't he make a guy like Brendan Rice better or McCaffrey or any of these guys? If Diggs was still great, he would be put up with. Yep. Not very private. Me too, Big Al. It was time. Next year we can. Yes, thank God we can get rid of Von next year. Crab edge class. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. I know everyone's thinking like wide receiver now, but maybe Bean's gonna try to outsmart himself and just like, oh, everyone thinks we're gonna try to get a receiver now because we need one, and then he's gonna go like edge at 28 or something, or trade up for an edge or a corner or safety or something, and then everyone's gonna be like, what the hell? But yeah, it's like I said, we do need edge. We need starting safeties. Maybe. I mean, Edwards and Rapp are fine, but there's this question marks with them. Question marks. They were both in depth roles the last couple years. It's Matt Milano's coming off an injury. Daquan Jones 2 years in a row he's been hurt. We need young D tackle help, wide receivers, running back. Always boast of the O line. So there's a lot to do, but yeah, it's I'm like I said, I'm okay with Diggs being gone. I'm okay with the move. Had to be done, like you guys keep mentioning. I'm sure he'll do fine in Houston. I'm sure the whole year is going to be about, who's just like the Brady and Belichick crap. They're going to make a big drama out of the Bills because everyone hates the Bills for some reason now. And it's going to be annoying. It's going to be stupid, but I think we'll be fine. It's going to be tough. We might not be winning 13 games. We might have to win in different ways, but this coming year is really important for Josh to not make boneheaded, stupid mistakes because it gets us into trouble sometimes. And yeah, he can wiggle his way out of it. But now when you're relying on young guys, Shakir, yeah, he's not a rookie, but he's a young guy. Curtis Samuel's a little bit of a vet, but he's gonna have this is the biggest role he's ever gonna have on a team. If he was always on garbage teams, they never had a hope to make the playoffs. Now we got Super Bowl hopes, right? So he's got a lot on his plate. And then whatever rookies we get, they got a lot on their plate. And then Justin Shorter, never played a snap in the NFL yet, has a lot on his plate. We got Andy Isabella, KJ Hamler, guys who played a little bit in the NFL, but never had huge, massive impact. So it's it might be frustrating in the beginning. We're gonna have to hope we get like some bums the first couple weeks of the year, so these young guys can get their feet wet and feel comfortable. And before we play teams like the Jets and the Niners and the Seahawks and the Dolphins. But only one edge worth a first. Yeah. But you know how the Bills are. Brandon Beane once said a couple years ago that he'll draft the edge in the first round every year if he has to. So that's his one position that he loves to draft. But so Big Al kind of said how he felt about receivers. So the rest of you got Trek Reviewer. I don't know if I heard. I know you said you wouldn't mind trading back, but is there a receiver who you'd want to trade up for, and how far would you go? I still think it might just be better to stay put because you might, when you have that pressure of I have to make a perfect decision here, you might be thinking with feeling other than fact and reach on someone or make a wrong choice. Because I'm still sticking with, and Brandon Beane said it himself. We all remember he said my first pick was Josh Allen, and I got a lot of flack for what we gave up for him. But my thought was if he does good, then nobody's going to care, and if he does bad, I'm going to be fired anyway. And I've been saying that for years now. Before he even said those words in public, that Josh Allen pick is the reason why he's still in Buffalo. It's like, can you get that lucky again? Can you trade up to 13, get Malik Neighbors, and then him be Justin Jefferson again, 2.0? Is that possible? Sure, but it's a really big risk because if he trades up, if Brandon Beane trades up to 12, and then Malik Neighbors is like, who was that guy from the Chargers last year in the first round? Who was he? Quentin Johnston, who was absolutely trash. I think they got him at like 20. Horrible. But he was highly touted. So nothing's guaranteed with these guys. So it's a really scary situation, especially because we don't have a true one. We don't have a bona fide 2. I guess Samuel could be a 2, but it's scary. If Harrison Jr. or tackle Joe Alt is still there at 9. So you'd even trade up for Joe Alt. So Joe Alt, I know, solid prospect, but I sent this to Jake. It was a video. They were talking to him. This guy's a baby. He's still a little kid. He's thin. He's like, he's really tall and he's like 300 something pounds. But like in that video, man, it's like, he looked like a high school kid. And I know he's going to grow. He's 21. So of course, I think he's the youngest in the draft. He might even be younger than 21, but he's going to put on size and muscle and everything, but he's going to have, I think he's going to have some struggles very early on, going against guys like Myles Garrett. It's just, I know technique matters more, but man, he's going to He's not that. It doesn't seem like that bulky, but you don't have to be. You don't have to be. I mean, Spencer Brown's tall and thin, but he's definitely a good prospect. I'm fine with drafting a tackle as well, just because, again, like I mentioned, Spencer Brown had a good year last year, but a bad career so far. So if he does well next year and he wants $15-16 million a year, I don't know if I want to pay that. So bring in a right tackle this year besides Collins and competition in training camp. If Brown wins, awesome. Have a great year. And then if he doesn't get hurt and he wants more money, we have to make that choice. We got your backup in the building already. We're prepared this time. We actually have a young, quality backup. If you don't want to stay with the Bills and take less money, and you want to go test free agency, we're fine. We got our backup, baby. But I think the biggest need, obviously, is still receiver and center and D tackle to me. But now I think receiver might be a bigger priority now. You could have all backup for Dawkins for a year and then slide Dawkins inside next year. Yeah, I don't know, though. I just feel like Dawkins is still playing at a high level. I don't think there's a need to slide him in yet. But, I mean, obviously he could play guard, but I think he's still athletic and playing at a high level. What I would prefer is put McGovern back at left guard because I'm going to say it every time we talk about it. This would be his fourth guard next to him now in 4 years if McGovern doesn't play there. And we remember how great they were next to each other last year. When Dawkins had Saffold the year before, Dawkins' play went down dramatically. Then McGovern got back there. They played every snap next to each other until we've blown teams out and they took them out. They both performed their best years as pros yet to this date. And all of a sudden, the big plan was to get rid of both your centers and then put McGovern there. Like, not that he can't play, but they always preach continuity, and that's not continuity anymore. Because, like I said, watch this. God forbid. So you got Edwards there. That's a new position. McGovern at center. That's a new position. Torrance gets hurt. That's a new position. And then you got 3 new people playing again, playing brand new spots. And then you got your 2 tackles playing against different people. Once you get in a groove next to someone, you're comfortable. I know what Cybo is going to do. I know what McGovern's going to do. Then next year, week 1, what if Dawkins is expecting, oh, yeah, I play next to McGovern. It's just ingrained in my head. McGovern does this when this happens. And then all of a sudden, Edwards does something different. Dawkins gets beat. Then all of a sudden, Josh gets hit in the leg and something happens, God forbid. So it's a big deal to me. Offensive line continuity is a big deal, especially when they played well, because you're just used to playing next to someone. It's just like in baseball. Certain pitchers have certain catchers, right? Because they're more comfortable, because the catcher knows them better. He knows how to call their game better. So if your guard and tackle is great next to each other, why move that just because he can play center? So definitely interesting. Or even move Dawkins to right tackle if Brown leaves. I don't know. We didn't really research right tackles yet, 100%. But can Alt play right tackle, or is he just a left tackle? But yeah, guys. I mean, really, not much more to talk about with the Diggs stuff. It's just shocking how it conspired. We still don't know the true story. Brandon Beane, beat around the bush the whole entire time talking about it. So we don't know the true answers. We don't know if he just asked for a trade. We don't know none of that. So it's just weird, the timing. If you were going to get rid of him, why didn't you do it sooner? And why was it the Texans? Why were they the only offer? Apparently there was other offers, but nothing got disclosed. So interesting. Alt only played left tackle. Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. I think there's a couple good. I started looking at the other tackle from Notre Dame, the right tackle, Blake Fisher. He's not an early pick, but maybe you can get him in the 3rd or 4th. Trey, what's up, man? Some Bills Diggs fallout. 1, Texans over Bills in 24. Maybe going forward, given their contracts. 2, Bean's draft strategy of always being bottom 5 in the draft capital means hitting every year is required. Yeah, especially this year, it's even more important. And yeah, on paper, Texans look better than Buffalo. I still put Allen over Stroud, so you got that experience, and I think Allen's a better quarterback. So that's part of it too. But they're stacked, man. And they got a great tight end. They got a great defense. They got the best left tackle in the league. They got a good offensive line. So do we. But, you know, they're stacked. They're doing everything they could for their young quarterback. And, you know, you got to love that. So now hopefully we can do something for our – because, you know, people say – this is where it gets me a little bit angry. Well, not angry because, you know, it's fine. But people say stuff like, well, remember we got 17. You know, Josh is still a great quarterback, a top 3 quarterback. So it's whatever. And that may be true. And he has proven that he can make bad people good and good people great. Why not just give him great people and watch what he does anyway? Like just because he can make bad people good and we can stay afloat doesn't mean that that's like the answer to our problems. We had a Super Bowl roster the last 4 years, I believe, and we didn't even get to one. Not even win one, but not even get to one. So this is really important, this draft, because Josh Allen's prime is only going to last. He's 28 years old. Probably by 33 is, you know, the 28 to 33 is probably his last leg of his prime. He'll still be good, but he's not going to be running his ass off anymore. He's not going to run over people, not going to hurdle people. So these are the years that are most important. But yeah, very it's going to be very interesting, this draft in a couple weeks. Think about like 2 weeks now, right? The 25th. Boy, you just so many unanswered questions. And then we got to put it all together. So we got to draft these guys, like Trey says, and hope they hit because you're drafting near the bottom every round. So, man, definitely nerve-wracking. You guys got anything else you want to bring up? Because if not, I'll wrap it up because everyone's already talked about Diggs, but we had to do it over here as well. I still think we'll be fine. You know, we might. I mean, for being realistic, there's a possibility we don't make the playoffs. But again, coaching is really important this year. Of course, we're relying on young coordinators. Sean McDermott has, you know, let us down in big moments year after year. And then you got Josh Allen. Josh Allen's still going to have to cape up all the time because we got young guys. So he's going to have to still be that guy. Or we could trade back, get Sweat, Estimate, Rice, Johnny Wilson, McCaffrey, and Blake Fisher. Yeah, I mean, that's all possible. Definitely possible. And, you know, of course, there's going to be undrafted free agents for other depth positions. And there's going to be, you know, normal free agents that you can sign after the draft and everything if you can't fit all your needs, because we got to have 90 spots filled for camp. But, yeah, I really want Sweat too, man. I would love him. I think that's huge. That'd be incredible. And then, you know, wouldn't it just be great if we can get a Brian Thomas and he turns out to be like Justin Jefferson? Not saying he has to be the best receiver, but we can get a guy like him where that production is just immediate. And yeah, they haven't won playoff games or Super Bowls or been in an NFC Championship with Jefferson, but he's the best receiver in the game. And you know, if we can get a guy like Brian Thomas, we might even be better if he can perform like, I mean, because what did Diggs have last year? Let me check. I think he had like 1,100 yards. We'll just look at this real quick just so we can try to gauge what we want our wide receiver 1 to get. Yeah, so last year it was his worst yardage year in Buffalo. He had 107 catches for 1,183 yards, 8 touchdowns. So if that's his worst year with us, we got to get at least that from our wide receiver 1. His best year was 2020, 1,500 yards, 12.1 yards a catch, 8 touchdowns, 127 catches. And his best in Minnesota was 102 catches, 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. And his worst in Buffalo was 103 catches, 1,225 yards, 10 touchdowns. So, yeah, it's definitely going to need a lot of production from our new wide receiver 1. So what do you guys expect? Say we draft Brian Thomas, and this will be the last thing, and we'll wrap it up. For those of you that are still in here, what do you guys expect from a Brian Thomas if we draft him in round 1 for us to be a Super Bowl contending team. And like the video if you haven't, subscribe if you're new, which I'm sure all of you that are watching are already subscribed. But I would also go after safety linebacker James Williams from Miami. Interesting. We'll definitely have to talk about him when we go to linebackers for draft prospects. I hope they go heavy offense in the draft this year so the Bills can make a real Super Bowl run in 2025. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, Trey, because I think the fan base, we're going to have to temper expectations now because we're retooling and we're trying to get back on track. So not that we can't be competitive, we can't win a Super Bowl this year, but and the window is not closed, but we need to get right in these certain areas. The way I work is you draft, make sure the positions are set, and then you maybe go get big free agents, and then you're ready to go. So we got to reset again. This is the reset year. See how it goes, because at the end of the day, even if Brian Thomas could be really good, what if he struggles this year? Having that pressure of being that wide receiver 1, you know, in a tough division, a tough conference, and maybe it's just hard for him in his first year, and then he learns in the second year and he's really good. You know, we might be in that kind of situation. So, but this is my minimum expectation for wide receiver 1 is what Diggs had last year. In a down year, he was declining. 107 receptions, 1,183 yards, 8 touchdowns. So I need him to get at least 90 to 100 catches, 1,100 to 1,300 yards, and 7 to 11 touchdowns from our new wide receiver 1, whoever it is. That's what I'm expecting. So that's for me. Safety James Williams at 6'4", 230. Yeah, that's a big guy. Definitely can play linebacker for sure with that size. But yeah, if you guys want to put your expectation for wide receiver 1, and then we'll say goodbye and wrap it up. You guys were great today. And hopefully Brett will be back soon. I talked to him on the phone. He sounds a lot better. So I think voice wise he'll be able to come on. I don't know about I know his face is still recovering, so he might just be a voice on the screen. So hopefully he can come back next week. And I'm sure we'll do a show this week as a group about the next draft position, because a couple weeks away we only did one so far. There's a lot more positions we got to do. So if Bills draft Brian Thomas Jr., he needs 8 touchdowns year 1. Yeah, definitely need that production, man. It's going to be very important for that. All right. I appreciate you guys. I know it's a lot of questions to be unanswered. We can still be hopeful, but I think we also need to be realistic, and maybe we need to just hope for the best and know that we're still competitive, but maybe really have our sights on 2025. But I appreciate you guys. Go Bills. See you guys next time.